Hey, you beautiful being. Welcome to Empowered Human. I am your host, Nina Garcia, and this episode is going to be a juicy one. Let me tell you why. First off, if you are here listening to this podcast, it is because you genuinely enjoy doing the work, that personal work, that growth work. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you have found yourself here and you are saying, you know what, I'm not really into that. I don't really like nuance. I don't really like going beyond the binary. That doesn't really sound comfortable. Then this is not the podcast for you. And that is perfectly okay. Now that I've said that, and we're all consenting to move forward listening to this episode, it is going to be focusing on healing. I promised you all that I would go through all three pillars and they would each have their own dedicated episode. The second pillar of being an empowered human is healing, right? So if you're still looking for that first one, you're like, Nina, what's that first pillar, right? Courage, then healing, then belonging. We've done our episode on courage. I highly recommend that you listen to that episode before you listen to this one. It will help add some context to what's already going on in your brain when it comes to validating and invalidating yourself and others. I know I said it. Validation and invalidation is a huge part of today's episode on healing versus harming. And why we want to choose healing, as if it weren't obvious enough, right? Not just why we want to choose it, but how we can actually choose healing over harming in the empowered human life. So if that sounds like your jam, fantastic. Grab a journal or a really good friend to dialogue with about what comes up for you in this episode. Remember how I said that it was going to be juicy? Here's why. This episode was completely recorded. It was supposed to go out this past Wednesday. And when we went in to edit it, the universe said, oh no, there will be no audio for this episode. And so I am having to completely record this for you. That's why this healing episode is a tad bit late. However, I have also had something occur in my personal life that does directly have to deal with choosing healing over harming. And I will be calling myself in this episode so that you can see how I process in the empowered human life, actually choosing healing over harming, and hopefully take from this episode how you can begin to choose healing over harming in your own life. So without further ado, are you ready to play? Welcome to Empowered Human, the dramatically playful podcast that invites you to heal humanity, the one within you, me, and the world at large. I'm your host, drama therapist, empowerment specialist, and not to mention empowered human, Nina Garcia, and I'm so stoked you're joining me on the journey. Every Wednesday, you are invited to explore transforming from powered to empowered with genuinely human stories of courageous existence, healing from invalidation, and truly belonging to you. So wherever you are on the spectrum, from empowerment curious to empowered human ambassador, this podcast is designed to humanize. Get ready to lean into your edge, heal your worldview, and finally belong to you. This is Empowered Human. Let's take a breath on in. Maybe even a slight hold at the top before you exhale it all out and down so that we can get this party started. I hope you have your journals out because we are going to launch in right away. In all of our episodes, individual culture is really critical to being able to consider how one can even live an empowered human life, right? How can you really genuinely say that you are an empowered individual who owns their truth everywhere they go? You have to have an awareness around your individual culture. You got to know, how are you showing up for yourself and how are you showing up with and for others, okay? So already in your journal, if you're not familiar with individual culture, I want you to write that down. If you're not familiar with the idea of your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others, I want you to write that down, okay? Individual culture in a nutshell is I want you to imagine, right? You have your own island. I have my own island. Everybody, it turns out, has their own individual culture island. And on this island are the following in the following order, generally speaking: your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, followed by your identities, roles, followed by your lived experience, followed by your family's experiences, your family history, and the history of your identities and roles. Now, I know that that's a lot to think about, but I just want to put that image there with you, that is everything that's going on your individual culture island. And it's really important that you are aware of those things because they shape what is happening within you internally, right, within yourself. And they also shape how you are engaging with other people, right, with the islands of other people. Now, as if exploring your own relationship with yourself wasn't enough, right, especially because we're talking about healing over harming today, exploring your relationship to other people's individual culture is really critical when you're an empowered human, because we have culture clash all the time. And I'm not even talking about dominant group cultural narratives here. I mean, individually, we have culture clashes all the time because of differences, again, in our individual culture. My island has a very particular set of customs and expectations. Your island has a very particular set of customs and expectations. So when my customs don't match up with your customs, do you think we're going to have a problem? Oh my gosh, you better believe we might have some challenges, okay? Now, one of the ways that we play with that really sticky and uncomfortable situation, right? Because these moments are going to happen, they're going to happen. One of the ways that we play with it is I say, let's build a bridge. When you're building a bridge, in particular, when you think about, I'm going to choose healing, I'm going to choose healing, I'm going to choose healing, you are building a bridge between yourself, right, and the parts of you, and also between yourself and others. The self and others bit is really important in an empowered lifestyle. And I want you to get that pen and paper out one more time, because here's the next bit that I'm going to tell you about why. When we think about an empowered life, self and other, the arrow is up for self and the arrow is up for other. What that means is I, as an empowered person, am willing to empower, validate, right? Arrow up for myself. And I'm also willing to validate, right? Empower the other. I am trying to validate multiple narratives here when I live in a space of empowerment. So when I build a bridge between my island and your island, I'm saying, I want to call you in, I want to call myself in, and I want us to both validate that there are multiple truths here, maybe even clashing truths, but still multiple truths that actually exist at the same time. My truth as an empowered human cannot be worth more than your truth. It doesn't mean that I agree with your truth. It doesn't mean that you get to walk on me or I get to walk on you. We're going to talk about harming in a second, right? When we say, I want to show up in an empowered way and I want to choose healing, then I am choosing to validate my multiple truths and also your multiple truths, because I want to build a bridge between our customary differences. You with me, folks? This is also a great time if you are an artist to say, hey, I want to figure out what's going on with my island. What's going on between my island and other islands? We could spend a whole episode, series, show, season on Netflix, really, exploring individual culture islands and how you can utilize that metaphor. But because this episode's on healing versus harming, I want to just leave you with that so that you can just sort of let it percolate, okay? Individual culture. The next piece that I want to connect to that is really inviting you to ask yourself, question time. Do you feel that healing is a part of your island? Do you feel that harming is a part of your island? To what degree, right? You could choose a percentage here. Is healing and harming a part of your island? This is really critical. A lot of people are going to skip this step and they're going to be, oh, that's an interesting thought. I don't want you to skip this step, friend. I want you to genuinely ask yourself, how much time, energy, money, fill in the blank, have you invested in your healing process? I ask you this, and I ask you to genuinely pause the episode if you need to here to think about this, because for those of us who are not aware of our healing process and we're not being intentional about our healing process, it is very likely that we are engaging in harming ourselves and or harming others. And so I genuinely want you to ask yourself, what have you done to heal yourself so that you are passing on healing engagements with other people? What is at the center of you ripples out. So ask yourself that. Do I have healing at my center, or do I have harm at my center? For those of us who have harm on our islands, whether it's at the center, on the vestiges, right, sort of meandering throughout like rivers, wherever the harm is on your island, if it has not been addressed and you are not working on it, I cannot but guarantee that it is affecting your life and probably affecting the life of other people around you. When we do not process and move to heal our harm, it stays on our island. And it says, oh, well, I know how to do this. This is what we're going to do. So if we've got unprocessed harm on our island, what? Oh, okay. I can hurt myself and, and I can hurt other people. And I mean, it's here, right? Like I deserve to exist, says the harm. I hope that we see at this point, this is a problem. This is a challenge. This is an area for growth. And if you were saying, okay, Nina, I hear you. I'm the person who still has harm on my island. Now, what do you want me to do with it? I want you to lean in and take a breath. And I want us all to acknowledge that we all have some harm on our islands. Y'all, I'm gonna call myself in as a human to human being with you here. The story that I'm gonna share later on in this episode, after I give you these goodies, because I want your brain to be set up first, is personal. And it shows you how the harm can be provoked, right? How somebody else can settle harm in you and how you can then promote that and put it onto someone else, okay? We are gonna be calling me in on this one, okay? So we're gonna come back to that later. Right now, we're checking in with healing versus harming on your island. And we're just saying non-judgmentally, let's just be real. If we came from a childhood of abuse or trauma, let's own that. Nobody else gets to take that from us, right? For better or worse, it is ours. If you are unfamiliar with owning your truth, that is a much bigger thing than we will talk about in this moment. But let me tell you, it is liberating, okay? We can't cut those things out. And I say this as a survivor of both childhood and adult trauma and abuse. So, knowing personally, professionally, we can move toward healing. We are going to level up, move on to the next space. I hope you took your notes. I hope you're being honest about, right, the healing versus the harming that's there. Here's the next piece. Self and other. When I look at this and I say, okay, Nina, I don't want to harm anymore. I don't want to harm myself and I don't want to harm other people. I want to come from a space of healing. I say, fantastic. Let me tell you what that looks like in the empowered human world. Healing looks like validation. I validate myself and I validate others. And I have capacity to validate myself and to validate others. I do this in thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. I am aligned in this way, Nina. I validate. That is healing in the empowered human world. When we flip the script and we go to the other side and we say, well, okay, then what's harming? Harming is invalidation. It is invalidation of the self and or others. It is us not taking the time to acknowledge the truth and often hiding from it because it's uncomfortable, right? Who can blame us? It makes sense. We can explain it, right? But we cannot excuse harming ourselves or others. We can only explain it. And I know that that's a big statement, but I want you to just sit and percolate with that. Put it on the table. You don't have to take that. You don't have to run with it. You can totally reject it if you want, in fact, right? You have permission to do that. But I genuinely want you to consider what that looks like in your own life, what invalidation might look like, right? And harming yourself and or others in that way when we don't own the truth of it. Invalidation is what we're now going to explore. Because I hope that you know, right, to validate yourself and others are like, oh, okay, I know what that is, right? Even if it's hard to do, okay, I know what that is. But when you say invalidation, Nina, what does that mean? When you put yourself down, when you put others down, when you minimize, okay, yourself or others. If you are busy misrepresenting yourself or others, if you are busy rejecting parts of yourself or others, all of these things are invalidating. In a nutshell, when I work with people, I say, hey, here's how you can remember this, right? Harming is invalidating self and others. And that invalidation looks like minimizing, misrepresenting, and outright rejecting. These are ways that we harm ourselves and others. And so some of us may say, well, Nina, it's okay if I harm someone else. I'm protecting myself. I do not know the context of your situation, but I want you to be really clear. If you feel like you are protecting yourself, are you protecting yourself from something that is dangerous and an imminent threat? Or are you protecting yourself from something that is just scary because it's just an idea of something at this point? You don't have lived experience of imminent threat at this point. This is really important, in particular, when I tell you about the harm that I had in my personal moment. So here we go. The story that I'm going to share, right? It is, of course, a personal story. I'm going to change the names because here's the reality. No story that we ever share is going to be completely representative of that human being as a whole. It's a moment. They could have been vulnerable. It could have been a very tough time in their life. We have no idea what these people, right? These characters in the upcoming story, we have no idea what's going on for them outside of that moment. This is particularly true in this case because for Olivia, the woman in the story, who I end up having a problem with, we will discuss more soon, Olivia has no lived experience with me. That's really important. Olivia has no lived experience with me, except for the moments that I have invited her to have a conversation with me face to face to talk about our co-parenting as a blended family. For those of you who did not catch that, I am a single mom. Hi. And part of my blended family means I have an ex-husband's fiance to deal with at this point, right? Now, y'all know I like to build bridges. We talk about the empowered human life. We talk about areas for growth, right? When this woman first came into the picture, I knew that long term, I wanted us all to be good. I wanted us to be gravy, baby, okay? So what I did, one of my very first outreaches to extend a healing bridge, yes, we're already in the story here, to extend a healing bridge to Olivia was to invite her to my daughter's birthday and to get her a shirt. It's a big thing in our family for us to have the same kind of shirts. We get them designed. Everybody, like the main right, family matches with the kid, and it's a lot of fun, right? We like to play with it that way. I love this. And I said, you know what? Let's invite her into this piece of the family, deal with your own feelings around it, need to process your own feelings around it, right? And then let's do this. This is a great start to this, or so I thought. I have never, in the last year since I extended that invitation, I have never received an, okay, Nina, let's have a conversation. I have received avoidance. I have been ignored. And I have been rejected, right? So already I have experienced several moments in which I have experienced minimization, misrepresentation, or rejection, in which I've experienced being invalidated. And what we are saying here is, right, is a form of harm. But I do my own personal work and I process my own feelings around it. They weren't ready a year ago when I offered, right, no less than 3 times for us to sit down. Let's have that co-parenting conversation. Let's do it, right? They weren't ready for it. So, okay. Live my life, right? Things got right up and down, right, as life happens. And then we fast forward to this past week. Now, this past week, for some reason that I did not understand at the time, Olivia felt the urge and the need to text message me. Mind you, we do not have a relationship. When people asked me before this point, well, what do you think of Olivia? I said, honestly, I haven't had any experience with her, so I really don't have any problems with her, right? I haven't had any issues. They say, oh, okay. I cannot say that anymore, folks. This past week, Olivia felt the need to text me, and the text and the conversation that followed was so provoking. It said so many things, literally explicitly, about me that were not true, that were spun to make me look like a villain. And it's very odd for me because I really didn't understand why she would have been messaging me about any of these things. And I quickly came to realize that everything that she was saying, it really wasn't about me. And I said that. I said, listen, I'm realizing this, what you're bringing at me, what you're casting at me, is not actually about me or my family. This is about you and your discomfort. And I can't do anything about that, Olivia. Olivia did not appreciate this, right? Felt that I was pushing past her boundaries. How can you even say that, right? Olivia's character, right? Because of course this isn't all of Olivia, right? I'm willing to bet it's not all of Olivia, right? But Olivia's character in this story, I had to be able to see was so struggling with her own perception of threat that the idea of me was so scary that Olivia still, a year later, could not meet with me face to face, could only cast things on me, things I didn't deserve. And here's the thing is, Olivia does not deserve to feel those things. But even when I put that out there and I said, Olivia, we've never had a face-to-face conversation. I've invited you before. Let's do it now. Y'all, I was still trying to build a bridge of connection. Even though somebody was throwing harm at me and casting this on me, I said, you know what? No, I live that empowered human life. Let's do this. Let's meet face-to-face, okay? You can bring a friend. Let's have a mediator, whoever you want, whatever it takes for you to feel safe and secure to have this conversation. I want you to have it because I feel comfortable having this conversation and I have felt comfortable having this conversation. And you know what I believe, Olivia? I wrote this explicitly. I believe that if you met with me face to face and actually had just one human to human interaction with me, I bet this would all go away and you would see that I'm not a threat, that I'm not a villain. The problem up until this point, folks, is that because Olivia doesn't have any lived experience with me, all she has are stories to go on. And the person feeding her those stories is not a big fan of me. Yeah. So this is unfortunate for me because I'm being invalidated by someone who doesn't have experience with me yet. And it's unfortunate for Olivia because she's actually engaging as a victimizer, putting me down, and then alternating as the victim because she believes that I'm the villain. That sucks. Can you imagine the chaos internally there? When we talk about healing versus harming, I'm going to come back to this story because what I've shared with you was my experience of Olivia. But I also need to call myself in on this, y'all, because empowered human life doesn't mean we're perfect sunshine and roses all the time. It got to the point where I was so provoked that I became ugly. I said, okay, that's fine. You want to keep hurling insults my way? You want to keep throwing harm my way? Y'all, I ate the story. I ate the harm. I took it in at some point and I said, here it is right back. And I threw it back at her. And it was not pretty. And I'm not going to pretend like it was. It was not empowered. It was a completely powered move after a point. Sure, I started empowered. I ended powered. When you are out there having a moment like this and somebody is provoking you to the point where you are going to move beyond your values and step outside of your system, you must remove yourself from the situation because they are not going to do it for you. I was coming from my own individual culture of build a bridge, Nina, build a bridge. However, what I missed was that Olivia's island had already cast me as a villain. It didn't matter if we had lived experience or not. She already cast me as a villain. So anything I said or did was already perceived as a threat. I was already scary. So anything I said or did, it didn't matter how kind it was, how inclusive it was, right? A person whose brain is in threat mode is going to cast everything in the light of, ugh, that's fake. She's pretending. That's not real. You can't believe her. Ugh, see how this, that, or the other, right? Harm is habitual until we disrupt it and heal. What I mean by that is It is entirely likely before this moment that Olivia was struggling with harm on her island, and I was the easiest one to cast it on. Then you take what's happening on my island. I was feeling pretty secure. I did not appreciate the attack. And instead of removing myself from her island, right, from the proximity of her island, I said, fine, I will take your attack and I will finally lobby it back. And then I made a hit. In no way, shape, or form will I tell you that how I responded was something I value. I do not value harming people. There were 2 moments in which this conversation ensued this way over the last week and a half. And after the first time, I thought, okay, we'll be done. It'll be fine. After the second time, I thought, this isn't fine, Nina. Do you know why it's not fine? Because Olivia is not going to stop. And if you don't stop, this is going to be a constant pattern of harm. You want to build a bridge. She doesn't see it as you building a bridge. She wants space to be left alone, right? She doesn't see that as avoidance. Do we see what's going on here? How important it is to recognize the difference in our individual culture and why there's a clash? I want you to get real with yourself about the last argument that you had with someone. It could be with yourself, it could be with someone else, yeah? And I want you to genuinely ask yourself, did you come from a place of healing? Did you come from a place of harm? If you came from a place of healing and then you moved into a place of harm, like I did, were you able to notice the moment where you could have stepped away before you perpetuated that cycle of harm? I don't want you to judge yourself. I don't want you to feel shame about this. We are human. But there is a difference and a nuanced difference between saying, I have had harm happen to me and now I am repeating it as a habit. And there's a difference between that and I am being harmed in this moment and now I am provoked enough to harm you. There is a difference for these 2 characters, and that's a really important nuance because at this point, I have to realize, Nina, right, have to realize in the story that if this person does not have capacity to engage with me in healing ways right now, then I cannot build the bridge with them. It does not matter if I am kind. It does not matter if I am inclusive. It doesn't matter how many things I invite them to or how many times I reach out and say, I am here, because they still don't have capacity. At some point, if you are that person out there saying, but Nina, I've done everything I can. I have tried. I've done X, I've done Y, I've done Z. I don't understand. Why? Why don't they get me? Why aren't they coming to me? Why don't they, aren't they able to stay in the same space? My friend, it is quite simply because they do not have capacity. I can't tell you why they don't have capacity. I can't tell you if it's as simple as they need more sleep and that'll give them more time, or if it's because they have a previous abusive relationship or childhood that still needs processing so that they can actually have capacity to be vulnerable with you and to receive your love in the way that is intended and your goodness in the way that it is intended. I cannot tell you why they do not have capacity. But when you notice and catch yourself on the merry-go-round and harm is the next tool that you will pick up, I want to invite you to take that breath in and to exit stage left. Don't give them the opportunity to engage with you as a victimizer anymore. And don't fall into the role of the victim if you can help it. Just remove yourself from the situation if you are able. Yeah. There's so much freedom in being able to do this. It might mean physically doing it. It might mean you need to block them for a while, right? It might mean only particular forms of communication. Whatever it takes to keep both of you safe. This pattern of harm that exists within all people, right? If we don't heal it, it is predictable that we will continue harming ourselves and or others because that's what's present. Until we move through and move toward healing, what is present on the island is what will be cast. It will be cast on other parts of ourselves and it will be cast on others merely because it is present. And the thing is, we can't cut it out, folks. You can't cut it out. You can't put a blanket on it. You can try to cover it up. You can try to avoid it, but it is still going to be there at the end of the day if you have not processed it. So I know we're coming to the end of the episode. You know I have an adventure challenge for you. And for those of you, I can hear it now. Well, Nina, what happened, right? After the second time, and me realizing, right, and it really did take me realizing that the actions of this person were not matching the words. They were saying they wanted to show up, they were saying they wanted to be there, but that's I have over a year now, right, of experiences that suggest otherwise. And so I, Nina, need to perk up my ears and actually hear what's happening here. What's actually happening here is that this person does not have capacity for their words to match their actions. Actions speak louder than words in the context of my scenario. And I would invite you to really ask yourself, are you missing the flags that someone is giving you? Are you missing their red flags and their yellow flags? Are you not really seeing and hearing and paying attention to their actions as being different than their words? If someone doesn't have capacity for what you have to offer or even what you need, we often cannot change that. The reality is, if anyone doesn't have capacity, the only person to fix that, quote unquote, to adjust that, to redefine that, is that individual who originated, right? That lack of capacity, within whom that lack of capacity actually originated. The conversation got ugly, right? I'm not going to tell you it ended prettily and that I was able to put a nice bow on it. What I can tell you is that prior to this experience, I did not have a negative thing to say about Olivia. When asked, literally 2 weeks ago, Nina, how do you experience Olivia? What's going on there? I said, honestly, I haven't had any negative experience ever, so I really can't speak about it. I think she's like a little avoidant. I think like she's not really talking with me when I've asked her, like, can we meet up? But that was like a year ago. So, I don't know. Maybe someday they'll come around, maybe not, but things are going okay. 2 weeks ago, right? Because this event was less than 2 weeks ago. It is unfortunate and yet reality that at this point, I now have something negative to say about Olivia. I now am struggling with feelings that are not based in an idea of her being scary or threatening, but the reality that she still, for some reason, does not have capacity to come and meet with me face to face for a conversation, or even on the phone, or even to be kind to me via text. And that is her stuff. It is not mine. I can't fix it. I can't help her with it. Anything I do is going to be perceived as a threat. I need to realize that. That is for me to realize. It is the same thing for you to realize, folks. If somebody is sending you a message, don't pay attention to the words. What is happening in the action? I don't care how much they say, I want this, I want to be there, what is happening action-wise? Listen to what their body is telling you, because our bodies don't lie. We just misinterpret, yeah? In the interest of wrapping this up with an adventure challenge for you, what I can say is that after the second time that we had an issue in the last week and a half, right, there were 2 different text message combos. I said, Nina, you have to realize this. You have to wake up, because if you do not flip the script on this and change the narrative, whatever kind of harm is going on within Olivia, it's going to be perpetuated within you. If you don't value harming people the way that you've now shot her ugliness back at her, right? If you don't value that, and I do not value that, folks, you have to remove yourself from the situation. Now, this means we've got to do some personal work. Yes, let's say that you were like, yep, I get it, Nina. I've had to remove myself from the situation. I've had to block them. I had to step away. I had to move out. I had to whatever, fill in the blank. Congratulations on giving yourself some of that boundary, right? So that you can take care of yourself and show up better in this relationship. Yeah. It is a reality that I am having to do personal work now on feelings of dislike toward this human being, because they have not been kind to me. And yet this person now has a reason to say, Nina wasn't kind to me. Sure wasn't. While I am working on that, and I hope Olivia is doing the personal work on that, here is my adventure challenge, yeah? My adventure challenge on many levels, folks. Here we go. One of my adventure challenges for you is for you to be curious about what is going on your individual culture island. Healing, harming. What is happening? What's the percentage? And if you say, Nina, there is a degree of harming that's happening, what is the pattern of harm? Does it come out with particular people, particular places, at a particular time? What is the pattern of harming that's going on? Is it a pattern that involves harming yourself or harming other people? Y'all see me processing through this? I want you to process through this. Because if you're saying, Nina, I am not okay with harming myself or others, I really want to engage in a healing way, we have to redefine your relationship to that idea of scary. We have to redefine your relationship and get you actually in your lived experience and redefining that. Now, for those of you who are like, nope, it's definitely based on lived experience, Nina, I know it. There's the harm. It's there. You got to heal the past where it is destined to repeat itself in your future. I wish that I could say different, but as a trauma specialist, TRAUMA specialist, the only way out is through. We find this over and over again. I can't cut the trauma out. And I say this as a PTSD survivor, right? You cannot cut the trauma out. You can only address it and redefine your relationship to it. And let me tell you, that's so healing. It's so healing. But if we do not address that harm 100%, it is going to become habitual and it is going to become perpetuated. So let's deal with it. Let's address it. Let's lean in. Of course, we all do this on our own time. So continuing with that adventure challenge, if you're like, yes, Nina, okay, I got my individual culture, check. Okay, I got this much percentage of healing, this much percentage of harm, check. Okay, you said, what's the pattern? Here's the pattern. Here's where it happens. This is what I want to work on. Pick one, right? One thing that you want to work on just between this week and next week. And I want you to make a commitment to choose your healing thoughts, feelings, behaviors. And I actually want you to write it down. When I think about my situation, I'm going to give you an example of this right now, folks. When I think about my commitment in this moment, I have not actually written this, so bear with me as I process through with you. How can I commit to a more healing relationship with Olivia? Because the reality is right now, I have actual reason to not like Olivia. I got to process through my own feelings because I don't want to hold on to those. Olivia's not holding on. I don't want to feel. That's my body that has to hold on to that. So I say, okay, I don't want to feel this way. I have made the choice and I am committing. I do not want to feel this way. So anytime I feel or think a negative thought about Olivia, what do? I'm going to tell you, thought-wise, I've done this several times in the last week, okay? Thought-wise, I imagine lavender healing light around myself and extend that toward Olivia. And I think, I hope that this is a bridge that we can build in the future. That is my intentional thought. That's what I'm committing to. It's okay that you don't have capacity now, right? May you forgive me for being ugly with you. And I hope this healing energy, this is what I want to feel. This is what I want to feel when I think about Olivia unbidden, right? I don't want to think about Olivia and yet, right? They'll be in my life for who knows how long. Feeling wise, I want to feel calm when Olivia pops up on my phone. I want to feel calm. So I really try to take that breath in and I think, okay, I'm committing to feeling like I'm healing, like I'm safe in this relationship. For some reason, Olivia has not had capacity to engage with me, right? For some reason, that is not my responsibility. I'm not a savior, right? I can't save them from themselves. And if I can't stop them from reaching out and harming me, what can I do? Here's the action. Remove myself from the situation. So moving forward, I got to say, I'm going to work on bringing back that respect for this person. And I do hope that the same can be said as we move forward, right? That they're able to commit to that. Now, here I already was again. I'm like, oh, that part of me that's like, it's so empowered. Can we heal? It is entirely possible, folks. Let me own this reality. It is entirely possible that for whatever reason, Olivia never has capacity. My commitment this upcoming week, my adventure challenge, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you just heard me go through it, is also to know and to be able to state here live with you. Y'all can call me in on this at any point in the future. Here it is. This is my commitment. I've already made this commitment to Olivia. It was rejected, but I already made this commitment. I'm making it here with you all as well. Every holiday, right? For those of you who are saying, oh my God, I got into it with this person. It was never going to turn around, right? Every holiday is an opportunity to build a bridge of healing. Every birthday is an opportunity to connect and build a bridge of healing. I'm going to go so far to say that any day Olivia were to reach out to me after this podcast goes out in particular, any day that she were to reach out to me and say, I'm ready for that conversation, she is going to get the same response from me that I gave previously, which is, I'm so glad to hear this. Great. Let's move forward. What do you need to have there for you to feel safe and secure? You need a friend? You need to stream it live? You want a mediator? You want a lawyer? You want just us? What is it that you need to feel safe and secure? Because a year ago, I felt safe and secure having this conversation with you. A month ago, I felt safe and secure having this conversation with Olivia, right? Today, I feel more comfortable than I did a few days ago. A few days ago, I was lit. I had to process those feelings or else they're gonna come out on Olivia. And here's a reality. I don't deserve that, and neither does Olivia. Not in an empowered world, y'all. We don't play with that, okay? Harm begets harm. We're moving toward healing. So, adventure challenge. There you have it. Explore your individual culture. Know your healing versus harming percentages. And know what you're committing to doing moving forward. And know that you can really be honest with it, because I can sit here and say to you and with you, I know that if Olivia were to reach out in the next 24 hours, 48 days, or year, that I would feel the same, right? I'm going to say, let's have a conversation about how we create a beautiful blended family. But you do not have permission to treat me as if I am invalid. You do not have my permission to minimize, misrepresent, or reject me because of your fear about an idea of me. Get to know me as a person. It's the same thing that I would want for you and all your commitments out there. Get to know what's actually happening with that human being. And if you're unclear and you're like, wow, they really can't tell me and you can't do that, please go get some personal support, y'all. Go to a life coach, go to a therapist, go to a group meeting. There are tons of free meetings. If you're having problems with relationships and you want a healthy relationship, go to a CODA meeting. You might say, Nina, CODA, what's that? And I'm going to tell you, it's Codependence Anonymous. Nina, I'm not codependent. Okay, that's fine. Do you still want a healthier relationship? Well, yeah, so go to a CODA meeting, okay? There's so many other resources out there. And of course, I can't belabor you with them right now. But you have so much more power in your hands than you realize. When you handle what is going on in a healing way on your island first, that is what can then ripple out. It doesn't mean that everyone else's island is going to have capacity for it. And when that happens, you have to know when to remove yourself. You have to know when to do that for both of you. You have to care enough. So moving forward, that is your adventure challenge, folks. Choose healing over harming. Understand that it is about validating versus invalidating, and choosing validation whenever possible. You got this. Thank you so much for being willing to explore healing your humanity on Empowered Human. I hope you found at least one new way to transform your worldview from powered to empowered. If you took something from the show, please take a moment of your time and subscribe to Empowered Human. And if it really nourished you, leave us a review. Your feedback helps me understand what our community needs. Not to mention, it helps others discover the empowered human life. So keep this last bit in mind. All the visual goodies come with me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Stay up to date there on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes goodness, and reels dropping knowledge. Thank you again for being part of the empowered human community. Until next time, stay curious.